Hello there, Obi-Shawn here. One of the things I think is coolest about Star Wars is how it unites fans. Whatever incarnation you prefer, like the Force, it surrounds us and binds us together. It's all part of one huge galaxy, ever expanding due to those creative people invested in bringing it to us. Someone who's really helped push the boundaries of that galaxy is actor and author Ashley Eckstein, best known for voicing and really defining the character of Ahsoka Tano on the Clone Wars and Rebels cartoon series. Ashley wrote and released a book in 2020, one of the Little Golden Book series that, like Star Wars, has been around since a long time ago. In I Am a Padawan, Ahsoka Tano, Jedi in training, learns the ways of the Force from familiar teachers Anakin, Yoda, and Obi-Wan. Librarian Alan Callaci and I were lucky to catch up with Ashley and talk about her book, her experiences as an actor and an author, and as the founder of fan favorite fashion outlet, Her Universe. Here she is. All righty. You want to kick us off, Alan?
Sure, I'll go ahead and with the first question, which is probably won't be no surprise to Ashley. So our first question is, usually you're one of our convention friends. We see you out at all sorts of events, from Star Wars celebrations to charities. How are you making up for the lack of things to do right now under our current situation?
Well, over the past year, it's definitely been, honestly, such a huge bummer to not go to conventions and interact with fans. And, we all understand, because first and foremost, everyone's health and safety comes first. And so, I think we're all in the same boat, that we, as much as we want to be at conventions, we all understand that it's not the best thing right now. However, as you guys know about me, I am a huge fan myself. I feel like I won the lottery when I became the voice of Ahsoka, because I am just a massive Star Wars fan. And so not being able to go to conventions and events is honestly like a piece of my heart and soul that feels like it's missing. And I miss everyone. The Star Wars community, we're all a family. And, to not see everyone, it feels like you're not getting a chance to be with your family, all year long. So, for the longest time, I kind of held off on the virtual events, because I felt like, I'm just going to wait until in person comes back. I prefer to give people hugs and see each other in person, and soon we're going to be able to get there. But then I realized, I'm like, I'm just craving interaction. And, what a blessing that we have the ability to do things virtually, and that we get to see each other like this. Mm-hmm. And so I really, jumped on board and started seeking out as many virtual opportunities as I could get, like this one, where, it's not quite the same as in person, but it's close enough. And, the fact that we're getting to have this conversation face to face in real time is incredible. And so it's been good for the soul to get to see everyone. And, until we can safely come back together, I'm happy to do these virtual events. But the second that we can safely come together, you better bet I'm going to be there, and I can't wait to see everyone.
So being a librarian, we have obligatory questions we need to ask you. What kind of a reader, and I know you have to read for work, you have to read scripts, and you have to stay knowledgeable about what's going on in industry, and there's a lot of things that you have to do that involve reading, but for fun and like over your lifetime, what kind of a reader are you? Are you like a casual reader or voracious reader? And do you have now, or did you have like a favorite book as a kid that you always went back to?
So this is a great question, and one that I'm going to answer honestly. I grew up with a fantastic library. Not only did I have an amazing library in school, but I had a community library that I proudly owned a library card, and I would ride my bike to the library all the time and constantly check out books. And I loved going to the library. So I definitely grew up reading. Books were very important in our household. But as I got older, I share my story because I know there's a lot of kids out there that are like me. I wasn't the fastest reader. It took me a long time. And, I wasn't one of those students. I was a good student and I made good grades, but I wasn't one of those students that um, easily was able to read a ton of books. And it took me a while. And I would have to sometimes go back and reread sentences over and over again until I really truly comprehended it. So I think because it didn't just come fast and naturally to me, I wasn't as voracious of a reader as honestly I would have liked to have been. And it took me a while to find my passion in reading. And it wasn't until I would say I hit middle school that I found that my passion became reading scripts. So I was a theater kid. I loved theater. I got my start in acting in theater. And so I would go to the library and check out scripts. And I found that I could read lots of, like books, even though they are books. I don't know why I'm putting that in quotes. But to me, my books were scripts. And I did become a voracious reader when it came to scripts. And so I just encourage kids, like, don't, if reading maybe doesn't come naturally to you, like it didn't for me, it's okay. Find the book that best suits you. If it's scripts, if it's comics, if it's you know, graphic novels, if it's coffee table books, if it's like, there's all sorts of different books, and it doesn't have to be chapter books or novels. Everyone's different.
Basically, maybe 85 to 90% of your job is reading. And even especially when you're doing voiceover work, you're reading a script and you're reading it aloud and you're converting that into emotion and performance. For any kid that's been in a classroom and asked to read by their teacher, you were like the ultimate outgrowth of that, where you have a story that you read, that you bring characters to life. And I could kind of see where that would take a lot of maybe the wind out of your sails for reading just recreationally, because it is so much, for work.
Yeah, I mean, I do a ton of reading for my job. And the reason I share my story is because a lot of, for example, my sister, it just reads book after book after book. And, I have friends that are just, like I said, voracious readers. And it didn't come as easy to me. And I've learned as an adult that there's a lot of people like me. So it's okay if reading is, if it's not as easy for you to read a book a week. Like, to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I could read a book a week like that. Like, it's okay. It doesn't mean that you're not as smart, or it's as long as you enjoy reading, find the best source of reading for you. And for me, I found it through scripts, and I really, really enjoy to dive into a good script.
Oh, and I love what you say, because working at the library, of course, nothing makes me happier, probably my coworkers as well, fellow librarians, than seeing a child find a book like Dog Man, and that works for them. That's the book that gets them into reading. I like Dog Man. I want to read the other Dog Man. I want to read other books like Dog Man. And so you're right. It's finding that book that just starts you on your path, I think, whatever it might be.
Yeah. It's kind of like education. I feel like every kid and every person learns differently. I am a visual learner. I learn best on the job while doing. And, I also, and not to take this off in a different direction, but, I did really well in school because I studied hard, and, I was able to get good grades, but I didn't take standardized tests well. And so I think sometimes with kids, we don't talk enough about, it's okay if you, excel in one thing or struggle in another. You're not alone. There's other people just like you, and you can work hard and overcome it.
And finding what works for you is so key
Exactly.
too, because not everybody's the same. You can't be standardized. So
Exactly.
And we love when a child finds that reading, yeah, it can be work, it can be hard, but there can also be some joy to find in reading. If you find that book or genre that you really like as well, it can be exciting.
I completely agree. There's nothing more exciting, I feel like, than, you know, finding something you really connect with and then diving right into a good book that you're truly connected with.
You introduced Star Wars for a lot of young people to Clone Wars. What was your own introduction to the Star Wars universe? Do you remember your first experience with Star Wars when you first really got hit with it?
I do. And it's a very short memory because I was young. I was less than 5 years old. So I don't know whether I was 3 or whether I was 4. Um, but uh, I watched Star Wars on VHS. It was A New Hope. And I remember watching Star Wars with my older brother. And I just remember the scene with C3PO and R2D2 in the desert in Tatooine, you know? Um, and I just remember wanting to be R2D2. I didn't want to be Princess Leia, even though I liked Princess Leia. I wanted to be R2D2. And so it's literally such a brief memory of the scene of them in the desert. Um, or actually, wait a minute, was that Empire Strikes Back? No. Yeah,
the
it was
desert was the first one. Yeah.
yeah, that was A New Hope. But we also watched Empire Strikes Back as well. We watched both. But we had this orange shag carpet in our house, and my mom hated it. But to us, it was the perfect like Tatooine setting. And we would play Star Wars, and I would pretend to be R2D2. And I just remember loving Star Wars as a kid and having this fascination with R2D2. So I've loved Star Wars ever since. And I grew up in Orlando, Florida. My dad was a cast member. So I remember when Star Tours opened at MGM Studios, which is now Hollywood Studios. And I remember getting an Ewok plush because I loved the Ewoks. And, Star Wars was definitely a part of my childhood.
My friend, who's a big R2D2 fan too, says R2D2 is the real hero of the story. He's the one that delivers the plans, that gets everything set in.
So I say that all the time. I call R2 my hero because if you think about it, he's always there to save the day.
So you very frequently mention when you talk about getting the role of Ahsoka that you won the lottery. It's like the Star Wars lottery that you won. And just recently you showed your actual kind of like lottery ticket. You showed your letter that you got from Lucasfilm that said you had won the role, and almost like it was a surprise. It's like, oh, by the way, in case you didn't know, you're going to be playing Ahsoka Tano, and which made me wonder, was that the only role you auditioned for? Did you audition for a number of roles and happen to get that one? How did that all come to pass?
Yeah, so I mean that's a great question because I actually auditioned for the role of Padme, and I almost didn't go to the audition because they wanted a sound alike for Natalie Portman, and I couldn't do it. I sounded nothing like Natalie Portman, and I had practiced all night, and I just couldn't get it. And I did show up to the audition, but there was a ton of girls there, and they were running over an hour behind. And I had had a bad day that day, and I'm normally a very positive person, but I was really down on myself that day. And I seriously almost left. And I called my agent and I said, I don't think I have any shot at this. I think I'm going to leave. And thankfully, he told me to stay. He's like, Ashley, go back inside. You got to stay. You never know what could happen. And so I go in and I read my first line as Padme. And sure enough, they stop me and they say, well, you sound too young for Padme, but there's this other role that you might be perfect for. And it was this new character. It was this new 14-year-old girl, and they wouldn't even give her name. So I didn't know that I was even auditioning for Ahsoka Tano. I just knew that I was auditioning for a new character. And in fact, I didn't even find out the name of Ahsoka until I was cast. When they called me, when my agent called me and told me I got the role, that's when I found out the name of the character. And then, they sent me the letter in the mail, because that was, back when they actually sent letters instead of emails. And, obviously they put the name Ahsoka Tano in the letter. But no, it was super top secret, especially Ahsoka, because nobody knew that Anakin Skywalker had a Padawan, much less that it was this brand new character that didn't even exist yet. So when I got that letter, it was shocking. And in many ways, it really didn't even make sense to me, because as a Star Wars fan, Ahsoka Tano didn't exist yet. So I really didn't know how big of a deal Ahsoka was until my first day of work, until I showed up at the recording studio, and then they explained it to me then.
One of the things that I kind of wonder about too, you mentioned that you took on Ahsoka at age 14 for the character, but now coming up through Clone Wars, coming up through Rebels, how did you approach aging and growing the character? And obviously she gains in experience and she gains in wisdom, and she starts very green, and then she ends up fully in command of her world, which is amazing. Did you roll with that? Did you plot that out in advance? Did you have an idea?
You could definitely say that I grew up with the character. While I was about 10 years older than Ahsoka when I first started recording her, I was 25, I think, when I started recording the voice of Ahsoka, and she was 14. I was still playing. I looked so young, and in Hollywood, they want you to, they like if you're an adult, but you can play a kid, because
Right.
then they can work you, adult hours. And so at the time I looked super young, and I was still playing a 15-year-old on the Disney Channel. So I was kind of in the mindset of a teenager, and my voice and look was very, very young. But in many ways, I even though I was 25, I had and shared, kind of like the naivete of Ahsoka. I was very naive, and not in a bad way, but just I still had a lot of growing up to do. So you could definitely say that I grew up with Ahsoka. Where we meet Ahsoka in the Clone Wars was very much who I was in real life. And, especially in voiceover, because what a lot of people don't realize is I was solely a live action actress. I got my start in the theater, and then I was doing film and television, and Ahsoka was my first big voiceover role. And so life imitates art. I was a Padawan in voiceover, just like Ahsoka was a Padawan in the Clone Wars. And I got to learn from the greats of D. Bradley Baker and James Arnold Taylor and Tom Kane and Corey Burton and all of these voiceover legends. So just like Ahsoka was learning, I was learning. But as she got older, I grew with the character as well. And I started my company, Her Universe. And, I learned a lot just in life, and in an odd way, my life has imitated Ahsoka's, even the roller coaster of things that she's been through. I haven't tried for that to happen, but I have a lot of real life experiences that are very similar to what has happened with Ahsoka. So I can empathize with her to my core. But then flash forward to Rebels. I was pretty much the same age as Ahsoka when I started recording in Rebels, I was almost the same age as Ahsoka. And so, when it comes to her voice, at the beginning of every season, I would sit down with Dave Filoni and we would talk about Ahsoka's voice. How old is she? So what does that mean for her voice? What range should I have my voice in? So it was very conscious, when she was young, we wanted to keep her up here and keep her snippy and, you're stuck with me, Sky Guy, keep it really young. And then as she got older, especially in Rebels, she was more of a mix of like Obi-Wan and Anakin. And, I dropped my voice where she was like, I'm no Jedi. And so it's a lot lower from where we find Ahsoka in the beginning of Clone Wars. So it's always very conscious, and it's something we talked about a lot.
You're the founding member of Team Tano, and Star Wars has kind of become your life. You played Ahsoka in 95 episodes of Clone Wars and Rebels and 67 video games. What is it like to be so identified with that character?
Well, I'm going to go back to, Obi-Shawn is what you often say is that, I feel like I won the lottery, becoming the voice of Ahsoka Tano, because as a lifelong Star Wars fan, this is a dream come true. And, there's very few characters in Star Wars that not only do you get to play, but you get to originate. And when this opportunity came about, I realized, I know being a fan myself, being a Star Wars fan is not just like a trend. It's not just something you're into one day and out of the next. It's literally a part of your heart and soul. It's a part of your identity. It's a part of who you are. And so I know how big of a deal this is and how Star Wars is a lifestyle for people. Star Wars guides your decisions. It guides your thoughts. At least for me, it does. And so knowing how important Star Wars is to people, because it's that important to me, I realized right away that being the voice of Ahsoka is not just another part, it's a responsibility. And it's a responsibility that I do not take lightly. And, I realize that Star Wars, and especially now Ahsoka Tano, changes lives and she saves lives. And when you have something, and especially a character that's that important to people, it's not something trivial that you just write off and be like, okay, well, I played Ahsoka today, on to the next role. No, this is something that's life-changing for people. And when it's life-changing for someone, I take that seriously. And I'm a representative of Ahsoka Tano. I'm a representative of this franchise. And I'm never going to do anything to jeopardize that or to put that in a bad light or to put that down. It's an honor and a privilege, and I will constantly strive every day to try to live up to the honor and privilege that's been bestowed upon me. So yeah, I see how much it means to people. And so therefore I try to prove that it means that much to me too.
The thing that's really fun though, too, is that you continue to be able to build on it. And so going from actress or actor, now you've gone to author and are writing Star Wars related books and things like that. So it's your universe, which is really kind of interesting because when I was in school, it was hard to find the fangirls because it wasn't cool to be a fangirl. And it's changed a little bit over the years. And maybe I think just because everybody's more vocal about their fandom, we can sort of, proclaim it a little easier without weird looks and things going, you like that? What's wrong with you? And here you have a book working as a bridge to put words into action and encourages people to take action on it, which is really super cool. And what's the feedback and the responses that you've got from people who have read this and identified with it?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say the fact that I can sit here and say that I've written a book proves that anything is possible. Because I once said I would never write a book. And it's not that I didn't want to. Of course, I always kind of had a dream of writing a book. But over the years, I allowed myself to believe that I wasn't capable of writing a book, that I didn't have the talent to write a book. And I was okay with that. Like I was just like, okay, well, I feel blessed. I have some talents, as an actress, and there's certain things I can do, and it's okay if I can't write a book. But it doesn't mean I didn't want to. And something I was very fearful of, I was very scared of. So when I was given the opportunity to write this book, uh, I was terrified. And it took it I was given an author to work with, because I was like, okay, I can do this, but I need help. And so Stacey Kravitz has written several books before, and she was actually supposed to write the book. So we worked for several months together. We had several conversations, and after about 2 months of conversation, she came back to me and she said, okay, here's what I think you're trying to say. And because it was all my words. And she said, here's the structure of how I think your book should be. Because it wasn't just about me. In fact, it was always intended to be an advice book and a roadmap for the reader on how to make your dreams come true. So I was only sharing my story as an example to say, here's how I made my dreams come true, but here's how you can do it too. And it's meant to be almost like a journal for the reader to say, okay, here's some exercises and here's some prompts. And when Stacey came back to me with the kind of chapter outline and then a rough draft, it was a wonderful book, but it wasn't my voice. And I thought, you know what? If this is my story and it's supposed to be in my voice, I need to write this myself. And, the biggest thing that I realized that was holding me back is I didn't know how to give a book structure. I didn't know how to do an outline for a book. And so once she gave me that outline, I kind of locked myself in my apartment for about 4 or 5 days, and I panicked for a minute. I actually took a nap because I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And then I woke up and I just started writing. I just started writing the way that I talk, and I did it. I came out of those 4 or 5 days with about 20,000 words.
Wow.
And I had an amazing editor, and we just then worked together from there to make the book what it is today. And so, like I said, it's exactly that. It's meant to be a guide. It's meant to be a roadmap for the reader on, how to dream it and do it, how to, identify your dreams and then make it happen. And yes, I mean, it's marketed, and towards girls. However, dreams are universal. And I think how you get there, the advice is universal. It's for everyone. And going back to your question about Star Wars and fangirls, it all goes back to Ahsoka for me. When I started my company, Her Universe, and I started this community called Her Universe, it was because I read story after story of women and girls being bullied for liking Star Wars, for just being a girl and liking Star Wars. And, this is back in 2008, and it's hard it's easy to forget that back in 2008, we lived in a very different world. Ahsoka Tano was the first female Jedi that was a lead character in the Star Wars universe. The first lead Jedi that was female. That was a big deal. A huge deal. It was the first time that a lightsaber was put in a girl's hands on a regular basis. And that was shocking. at the time. And so it wasn't necessarily, you know, deemed acceptable for girls to like Star Wars, even though we all know there was plenty of girls that like Star Wars, but the stereotype was that Star Wars was just for men and boys. And so I asked myself, what would Ahsoka do when I saw that there was a huge stereotype that needed to be broken? And my answer was that Ahsoka would stand up for fangirls. So I so badly wanted to be a real life version of Ahsoka. So I didn't know how to start a company. I didn't know how to make merchandise, but I figured it out because I wanted there to be a safe space for female fans. And together, not only did female fans kind of step up and say, okay, hi, I'm a girl and I like Star Wars, but you guys as well, all the fanboys, all the guys stepped up and said, you know what, I'm sick of it too. My sister, my daughter, my mom, my friend, you know, she's a girl and we like Star Wars together. And I've never been so proud to be a part of the Star Wars community because I feel like everyone came together and said, we're sick of it. Like Star Wars is for everyone. Star Wars is universal. You know, you can't put a gender on it.
Yeah. What I really, one of the things that really struck me in the book and I really loved was some of the exercises you have in the book. Your book is not just a passive experience for the young reader. You get them vested in it. I'm not telling you how I got to my dreams. I'm giving you, like you said, a roadmap to get to yours. When did that strike you? When did you come up with that idea? It's like, I'm going to include exercises in my book too, or little journal entries for them to do.
You know, that evolved along the way. In my mind, I always felt that the exercises needed to be in there from day one. It wasn't meant to be like a journal type book, but the way that I wrote the book, the exercises to me were essential because I never wanted to write like a memoir. I didn't feel that I had done enough to even warrant a memoir. You know, so the project did start out more of like a memoir, but to me, it just didn't feel right. I'm like, no, the only reason I'm sharing my story is as an example to show and prove that here's what I did, and here's how you can do it too. And here's why I believed I could. And so, you know, here's some of the things that I did. Here's, you know, so all those exercises are truly things that I did. I didn't make them up, you know, as like an afterthought of like, oh, you know, okay, well, let me think about this as I'm writing this book. What's something cool that they can do? No, everything that's in that book is something that I did along the way. And so it was more of just me sharing my experience.
That's really cool. And you do make a good point that despite the labeling on the book, I mean, everybody can use a guide and everybody can use a little inspiration. And so I see why targeting it at women and girls is super, super important for that representation. You're right. You know, there are probably a lot of guys who could really benefit from that and should probably give it a spin.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is just realizing that dreams are universal. Dreaming is for everyone, and there's no age limit to wishes. There's no age limit to starting a new dream. And I think to all the adults listening, and this is even a reminder to myself, I feel like there's something that as adults, you know, we kind of feel like, oh, that dream passed me by. You know, it's too late for me, but maybe for the kids, they can do it. No, I'm going to be making wishes until the day I die. I'm going to be starting new dreams. And again, until the day I die, like it's just something that's never too late. And so I don't think it's a bad reminder for all of us, you know, especially after the year we've had, because I think almost everyone has a story about a door that closed over the past year. And you know, I think we're all going through a bit of a chapter of reinvention. And so it's never too late to kind of reevaluate dreams.
Yeah, speaking of that, I think maybe my favorite part of your book is when your parents go and they make that wish into the fountain that one day we're going, I think it's your mom, right? One day
Oh, yes.
in Orlando, and it happens. And I think it almost ties in with your book. The first thing you need to do is that visualization, right? And I think your book does that with a lot of the journal exercises. For a lot of, like you said, for our younger and adult listeners right now, or viewers, can you talk more about resilience and positive thinking and the hard work as being the key ingredients to attaining those dreams? It's not just enough, I think, just to say I'm going to do this, but the effort it takes to actually achieve it too.
Yeah, well, I mean, we all know the quote from Star Wars from Qui-Gon Jinn, your focus determines your reality. And I think, the big step that we can't skip is hard work. And I think, especially with kids today, it's hard for them because, we didn't grow up with social media. Um, I didn't I didn't even get my first, I'm dating myself now, but I didn't even get my first cell phone until I was 19 or, 20. Um, and then social media, I mean, really didn't boom until I was well into my 20s. But there's no such, in my opinion, there's no such thing as an overnight success. But I feel like this new generation, and I don't blame them because they're constantly surrounded by viral posts, by viral influencers that, just all of a sudden one day they have no clue who they are, and the next day they're like, oh my gosh, they've got 300,000 followers for doing a single video. No, behind every overnight success is someone that worked really hard to get there. And, that's just the first time you've heard of them. Now, I'm not negating the fact that there are people out there that might have a viral post, and that does happen. But to actually have a dream and make it happen and keep doing it and to stay there takes a tremendous amount of hard work. And so I think we're doing, kids a disservice to not talk about the tremendous amount of hard work. And I think it's fun to glamorize overnight success and viral posts. And, it's really important to tell kids, no, you can do it. Try not, do or do not. There is no try, but you got to do it. And it's a lot of hard work. It's not going to happen overnight. But you know what? If you work hard when it does happen for you, boy, is it going to be rewarding.
Well, we're kind of on the subject of building things and dreams and whatnot. Uh, Her universe has like taken off. Everybody knows what her universe is. The selection of items that it has, it plays to everybody's fandom. It's all inclusive for everybody. And it really has become sort of a fixture of the fan community and lets people their fandom in ways that they haven't really been able to before. Um, how difficult was that for you to start up? Did people just jump on right away and go, yes, this is something we need? Or did you have to sell people on it and, like you said, create this foundation and then just start building and building and building to make it what it is now?
So speaking of overnight success and hard work, her universe was certainly not an overnight success. um, it was a tremendous amount of hard work, but something I didn't do alone. I've always had a wonderful team from the beginning. Very small but mighty. We started with about 4 or 5 people, and still it's a relatively small team. But it started against all odds. I was told that her universe would never be successful because women and girls would not buy Star Wars merchandise made for them. I was literally flat out told, it's not going to work. But I knew, as a female Star Wars fan, I knew that I wasn't alone. And, I did my research. I found out the statistics said otherwise, that close to half of all Star Wars fans were women and girls. And so I took a chance. I took a leap. And, I think the key to the success of Her Universe was, from day one, I said Her Universe is two parts. Yes, it is a merchandise line, but more importantly, it's a community. And I always put community first. And, if, hey, if you have the money and if you like it, then great. We have merchandise here too. And the merchandise was a means to kind of make fangirls feel more comfortable to be themselves. But the goal was just to create this safe community where female fans could step into the spotlight and say, hi, I'm a girl and I like Star Wars. And, they would feel celebrated, they would feel empowered to just be themselves and be who they are. So, you know, we went grassroots, as you guys remember. I mean, I started very, very small. We only sold on our website and at conventions and, eventually just at Star Wars weekends at Disney World. And we're very, very small. But, thanks to our community, we were able to grow. And it definitely is a testament of hard work. I mean, there was a period of 4 years where I worked 365. I literally did not take a day off from the moment I woke up until the moment I went to bed. And I wouldn't change it for anything because it is what it is now because of a tremendous amount of hard work and belief and not just, like I said, from myself, but from an incredible team. And like I said, it takes teamwork to make the dream work. And I think anything is possible by, you got to build your team. You got to build your support system, whether it's a team that's literally you work with day to day and they're on the payroll, or maybe it's just your friends and family that you ask to support you. You got to build your team, your inner circle of trusted people that will always be there for you and be your cheerleader. And fortunately, I had that. I had a small team of people that believed in me, and we were able to grow it from there.
So we'll get back to books for the library event. You recently put out a little golden book, I Am a Padawan, and we'd like to talk a bit. What was the inspiration for the story, and how was it collaborating with Shane Clester?
Well, first and foremost, I have to say, this is probably one of the coolest projects I ever worked on, but I grew up on the little golden books. So when I was a kid, my parents would read us a story every night, or we would read my parents a story every single night before bed. And we had a bookcase full of nothing but little golden books. And so literally the little golden books are my childhood. I learned to read on them. So I actually got a call from Lucasfilm, a gentleman by the name of Mike Siglain. And he asked me if I would be interested in writing a little golden book as part of the I Am series. And I think it was the fastest I ever said yes to anything in my life. I was like, yes, of course I will. And then I panicked because once again, like I said, I didn't believe that I could write books, because writing about yourself and writing the way you talk is very different than writing a book about Ahsoka in Star Wars. So I did panic. But again, I locked myself in my apartment and spent all day, and I came out with the draft of the book. I binge watched a bunch of episodes of Clone Wars. But it was something that was a passion project of mine, and I was really honored to pay it forward, to give a book like this to a new generation of young readers who are learning to read. But unfortunately, I didn't get to collaborate with Shane. They passed off my manuscript to Shane, and he did amazing illustrations. But, I wish, we would have been able to actually work together. But that's not how, these projects work. But the beautiful thing is that we, after the fact, got to meet over social media. And I feel like we're, big cheerleaders of each other, when things get posted about the book. And I'm just a huge fan of his work.
What about your collaborations with E.K. Johnson on some of the audio?
I love E.K. Johnston. E.K. Johnston is just one of my favorite people. We have become really good friends, and I have had the opportunity to, meet up and collaborate with her many, many, many times in person. I mean, we went on the Ahsoka book tour together. We meet up at various cons. And E.K. Johnston is the perfect example of a supportive friend. And I think it's important to point that out, because in a world that sometimes stresses competition and, kind of tearing each other apart sometimes, and competitiveness, we don't shine the spotlight enough on supportive friendships. And E.K. Johnston is the perfect example of that. She is such a supportive friend. She builds people up, and she supports them, and she empowers them. And I just can't say enough great things about I call her Kate, about Kate. And then not only, she is an incredible writer. Oh my gosh, this girl is so talented. So I'm a big fan. I am getting the chance to do a project with her soon. Like I said, it's not Star Wars. I wish it was. But I will continue to be Kate's biggest fan, just like, she's a big fan of mine. And anything I can do to support her, I will be front row center, just like so proud friend.
So we talked about how long you've played Ahsoka and through this incredible arc. I can't imagine it's easy to narrow this down. Do you have one Ahsoka moment that's like one thing that just really stands out as defining the character for you, that you were just so glad to be able to put out into the world?
I think the defining moment for me for Ahsoka is the season 5 finale episode where Ahsoka walks away from the Jedi Order. Um, Something changed with the response to her character after that moment. And to me, I think Ahsoka became a beacon of hope for people after that episode. She proved that no matter what you're going through, that it's okay to walk away, and it's okay to choose your own path. It's okay to make your own decision. It's okay to trust your instincts and trust yourself. And after that moment, I can't even begin to tell you the amount of stories and messages that I get from people saying and telling me that Ahsoka changed their life, or like I said, Ahsoka saved their life. Star Wars has always meant hope to me, but after that moment, Ahsoka means hope to me, because what was the darkest time for Ahsoka, where literally there was no light for her, Ahsoka found light. She found hope in the darkest of times. And I think she proved to all of us that there's always hope and there's always light, even in the darkest of times. So for me, that was the defining moment of her character. And that's where she really, I feel like, earned her icon status in Star Wars. And I will always go back to that moment. It gives me chills, and I cry every time.
I will admit to having gone back through your IMDb and looked at life pre-Clone Wars, and you've had some really, really kind of interesting stuff. You've been Jan Brady for one, which
Yes.
which was really kind of fun. And the thing about the internet is that we can find all of this stuff on the internet, so it's all out there. And in fact, I just watched you choose some scenery as Mean Girl Muffy on That's So Raven. You did a talent show episode that just it didn't end well. But was so much fun. And then you were on Blue Collar TV for a long time as part of a sketch comedy troupe, which was amazing. And then you've even been doing voices on like non-Star Wars stuff like She-Ra and whatnot. So, you're obviously Ahsoka is not the sum of your parts. What's like a dream role for you? If you could take on anything, what would be like the best role you could imagine? And I know sometimes they give you roles you don't imagine you'd ever take, but if
Yeah.
you could choose one, what would you choose?
Oh goodness. Well, I will tell you that the role that got away, because I've been very close multiple times and I've never been able to play this role, is Alice in Alice in Wonderland.
Oh,
Um, that's my dream, and I've actually been cast as her for a video for Disney once, and
wow.
um, I unfortunately had to turn it down because of another job, and you know, I have two great loves in life. It's Disney and Star Wars, and obviously Ahsoka is a huge part of that. But my greatest love of all of it is Alice in Wonderland. I'm a huge, massive Alice in Wonderland fan. So um, that's I would say the role that got away. Um, but speaking of roles that I didn't even know existed, because I didn't even know Ahsoka existed. I'm working on a new project that I can't really say anything about, and it's not even set yet on how it will be released. But it's a new character, like Ahsoka. It's not Star Wars, so I'll preface it's not Star Wars, but it's she's very inspirational, just like Ahsoka. And I'm excited. Not only will I get to play this character, but I will be the executive producer as well. So I'm excited to kind of expand from there and get to produce as well as be in it. So the reason I share that is, I think I was raised, when I was coming up as an actress, I was told that I could only do one thing, that if I wanted to be an actress, I had to pick one thing and I had to pick acting and focus on it. And I believed it. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that that was a lie, that you can do more than one thing. And I can be an actress, and I can be a business owner, I can be an author, I can be a fashion designer, I can be a producer. And so I'm excited to kind of step into a new role and be able to do more than just on the acting side of it. So um like I said, it's something new. I can't share too many details, but we're working on finding the right partner for it now, and we're in talks with several different partners. So, or one in particular that we're hoping to work with and bring this story, out to the world soon.
That is super cool. And gosh, I can't imagine a more positive way to wrap things up. I'll still hold out that you get to play Alice, though. That would be
Yes.
Oh, thank you, thank you. One day, like I said in the beginning, you can never give up on your dreams.
I'd like to thank you once again for the Rancho Cucamonga Library, for being part of our virtual Star Wars event and being a silver lining as we had to go virtual this year.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you both tonight. I feel like we're all part of the same Star Wars family. And so I'm missing seeing everyone and seeing you guys and interacting. And this was such a joy tonight. And I think the one thing I'll leave our chat with is really one big lesson that I feel like Ahsoka has taught me this year. One of the things that makes Ahsoka so powerful is her kindness. And kindness is oftentimes looked at as a weakness, but it's actually not. It's what makes Ahsoka so powerful. Ahsoka is kind. She's selfless. She helps others no matter what. She always wants to do what's right. So if you ask yourself, if you want to be like Ahsoka Tano, and if you ask yourself, what would Ahsoka do? I feel like the answer is Ahsoka would always do what is kind and what is right and what is selfless and what is hopeful. So I think, we're going to come out of this. We're going to be able to come back in person together, and we will get through this time, but we're going to get through it by helping each other no matter what, and by being kind. And so I think that's the little piece that I'd like to share as a takeaway, how we can all be like Ahsoka. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Sean,
you.
Alex,
It was
thank
so
you
great
much
to
for your
see you,
Yeah.
and next time maybe in person.
Yes.
Yes, I hope so. All right, take care.